So, I welcome you to this last week of this course, that is 8th week of managing change in an organization, and in this week basically we are going to talk about some other issues. Okay. So far we have discussed about how we are going to manage change in organizations, and we talked about all kind of issues starting with initiating change to implementing, and then in the last week we talked about how it could be linked with innovation and how an organization can become a learning organization if it continuously goes for improvement and innovation. There are some other issues that is left out, that is what we are going to discuss in this week, and in this week we are going to start with another kind of change which is considered as more transformational or radical change. So, we will talk about a different kind of change which is known as turnaround, and then we will see that how this turnaround strategy is another kind of change where we go for total transformation, and this is necessitated because the organization is not doing well. So, if an organization is not doing well, then you need to bring about a change in everything, in the structure, system, product, process, everything, because if an organization is the market is declining and is not able to perform well, and this performance is continuously deteriorating, then in that case the only option that most of these organizations has to bring about a total transformation. It means that you need to turn it around to make it a profit making company from what you call a loss making company. So, this is a much bigger change that is there. So, in this lecture especially we are going to talk about the turnaround strategy and what is turnaround, and we will also discuss about that how turnaround happens in most of the organization. Now, if you look at this figure, it would be clear to you that what is happening. Now, what is happening here? See, this shows what? This is the profit index of the company. Now, from here the company is continuously making losses. So, if the company is making losses, you need to develop a strategy, or you have to go for some kind of change, so that you make it again a profit making companies. So, where we use this kind of turnaround strategies, where we want to convert, change or transform a loss making company into a profit making company. So, this is a different kind of change, a bigger change, where you are going for a total transformation of a company to ensure that it becomes a profit making organization, right. The idea here is that a loss making company become more profitable again, and that is why we say that turnaround is related to ensure that a loss making company becomes a profit making organization, and that is why we try to implement a turnaround strategy. It means to turn the company from a negative point to a positive point, right. So, what is the outcome? If you are able to turn it around, then a sick company or any company is going to stand again in the market and it starts making profit. So, basically this is what we call a complete U-turn of a planned strategy. So, it is a planned strategic change where you try to bring about a change to ensure that a loss making company becomes a profit making company. So, if you look at the last point, these could be the reasons for a companies making losses: global competitions, technological turbulences, high cost of capital, and there could be other factors also which may cause turnaround to make business viable, right. So, if you are not able to compete, if you are technologically you are not able to compete with others, and if your cost of operations become very high, then you start making losses. In that case, you need to think about a strategic change which will help you to ensure that you are able to start making profit, right, and that is where we are going to talk about the turnaround strategy. Now, moving further, if you look at the definition, it says it is as a series of rescue efforts aimed at arresting the declining trend of business activities of the firm, right. It means you want to ensure that the loss making company again starts making profit, right. So, now if you look at the definition, it talks about three things. In general sense, it says that to transform a loss making company into a profit making, this is what we call turnaround. In business sense, you also need to identify what are the issues because of which the company is making losses. So, to deal with the issues of loss making company, and finally, in academic sense, what does it mean? What are the reasons to solve the root cause failure of a loss making company, why this company is making losses, right. So, these are the three definitions that is given in general, in business sense, and also in academic sense. So, we will look into these issues further to see that how we are able to manage a turnaround. See, what are the reasons or decline or failure, right. It could be external to the firms or it could be internal to the firms. For example, if you have gone for a change in the environmental domain, you have been doing something else and then you have started doing something else, and in the new domain you are not able to succeed or compete. The technology, on the technology front you can say you are not able to compete, or companies have gone for a new business models and you are not able to adopt this new business models, because of which your company is not able to make profit and your business is going down. So, technology, environment and business models could be the reasons which could be external to the firm. Okay. Then internal to the firms, the management skills are not good, right. You have not been looking at the market indicators, what the market requires, what the customers require, right, and you are not going for product and services which is required by the customers, you are still doing your business in your own way. The best example that I had given yesterday also, like HMT or Hindustan Motors did not go for a change. They ignored the market indicators, what people preferences, customers requirements are, and your operating system is very not only operating systems, even financial controls is very bad. Then you go for over leverage because you are having some kind of a strength, cost escalation, it means cost of the operation is going high, or even increase in sales and environmental changes, it means that your cost is going high and your profit become less, right. So, there could be lot of factors which could be considered as internal to the organization, because of which you are not able to make profit. So, this necessitates to bring about some kind of change in the organization, its structure, its process, its system, its technology, right, or developing a new business model, so that you are going to be successful, and that is where you will link it with the change. So, why we go about turnaround strategy? We have already talked about the factors. So, this could be the reasons, right. Your market share is going down, right. Your gross or national income is going down. So, margins have reduced, net margins have gone down. If you look at the cost benefit analysis, you are not profitable, your company is making losses, the cost has gone up. Then revenues are short, the revenues are not coming from the markets, the profits have gone down. Okay. Your performance measures are declining, your structure has there is a change in the structure of the company, how other companies are doing, what kind of competition is there. If you look at the say aviation market or the telecom market, and you can see that some of the companies are not able to sustain and are not able to perform well, right, or even if you look at the automobile market, right. So, if there is a change in the industry structure in terms of product, industry and competition, what will happen? Look at the two vehicle market, say automobile markets, two wheelers. You know that the scooter market has completely gone down now, and most of the companies have stopped making scooters. So, if you are making scooters, definitely you are not able to compete with others. Look at the aviation markets, how the nature of the industry and the competition has changed with the introduction of low cost airlines. Okay. Or even look at the telecom sector, what is happening there, the structure of the industry and the competition, the nature of the competition has changed. So, if you are not able to follow it, then what will happen? Look at the case of BSNL. If BSNL is not going to bring about a change in its structure, it would be very difficult for them to compete with private players today, and that is where they are going to see that what kind of transformation would be required, so that they are able to compete. BSNL is still with 3G, while other companies are thinking about 5G. So, how we can compete with others, because the kind of technology that you are using is different. Then your ROC, that is return on capital employed, is going down. So, if you find that these things are happening, these are the indicators which suggest that you need to go for some kind of transformation, or what you call the total transformation of the company, so that you can arrest these things, right, and that is why turnaround would be required. So, you need to bring about a change. So, that is what we have been talking about. So, how do I identify? Look at the internal factors and also external factors, right. Poor management, neglecting key tasks, you do not change, you do not bring continuous change, right. You have over expanded without realizing whether it is going to help you or not, right. Integration is very bad, do not have resources to manage organizations. Similarly, if you look at external forces, we have already talked about, like competitive forces, economic changes, political changes, changes in the demand of the products in the market, lifestyle changes, that also requires some kind of changes in the product and processes or services, bring a change in the technology, whether consumer are confident in your products and services or not, whether you are able to bring about new products. So, all these sources basically suggest that you need to go for a change in your product, process and what you call the services. And if you do not bring about the change, probably it would be very difficult for you to compete, and then what will happen? These indicators will pop up, and then it will be very difficult for you to manage your business effectively, and this calls for what you call a turnaround. So, you need to see that how you can turn it around by identifying those factors and see that how you are going to work on these factors to ensure that your organization is going to be successful and productive. Moving further, what kind of strategies are adopted by say businesses if they want to turn around? So, two kind of turnaround happens, one is operational and the other one is strategic. We will discuss it in detail again, but here when we are talking about operational strategies, so you basically try to look into that how you can improve efficiency, right, of the business to make it more cost effective by increasing lowering down the cost, improving the quality, improving the productivity, so that you can reduce the or arrest the decline, right. So, the idea here is that this is basically we are trying to concentrate on internal factors, right, which is related to improving your operational efficiency. Now, moving further, when we are talking about strategic orientation, this is related to the market or the external factors. So, this is related to internal sources, or this is related to external sources. Here you are trying to adjust your strategic focus of the business to ensure that what kind of products, markets you want to serve to halt the decline, right. So, you look at the market and you see that what others are offering and what you need to offer in terms of product and market services through which you are able to compete, and accordingly you bring about a change in your strategy, and here you try to bring about a change in your efficiency. So, you go for improving your operations, so that you can bring efficiency, and this efficiency could be measured in terms of improving quality, right, decreasing cost, increasing efficiency and productivity, through which you try to decline to ensure that this decline does not happen. Sorry. And here you look at the market. So, here you look at yourself, that how you can improve yourself as a business, and here you see that how you can compete with others, and sometimes both the approaches are adopted by the organizations to ensure that the company is able to turn it around. Now, what kind of strategies are adopted based on what we have talked about? Cost reduction, it is an internal strategy, asset reduction, it is a part of operational strategy, revenue increasing strategy, again operational strategy, financial restructuring, product market redefining strategy. This is a strategic, say turnaround, and here what we have been talking about, cost reduction, asset reduction, revenue increase, financial restructuring, all this is a part of what you call operational efficiency. And then management and cultural change strategies, this is also related to what you call operational efficiency, where you are to bring about a change in the culture of the organization to make it more effective more stubborn, and to see that how this cultural changes is bringing about better performance, right. So, these kind of strategies which could be considered either as operational strategies or strategic orientation is going to help a company to ensure that it is able to turn it around, right. Now, moving further, what are the different stages at which you can go for this, right. When you find that management is not active, it is not acting, right. The first stage. The second stage could be where you find that yes, there is a crisis, people have understood that yes, we are not doing well. This is what we call moment of truth, where people realize that yes, we are in a crisis because we are not able to make profit and the loss is continuously improving. It means that there is a continuous decline in the profit, right, where there is a firefighting by the senior management, where senior management think that what needs to be done in order to ensure that we are able to make it a profitable company. This is where you are going for a strategic orientation, where you are trying to redefine the focus of your business. So, you refocus, so you have a different kind of direction for your business. For example, say look at the IBM, which used to be a software company, and after 2000 what they found that they are not able to do well here. So, they shifted their business to another kind of business, right. So, this is what we call a strategic direction of business. So, what IBM did was that they tried to focus on consulting services. So, they refocused on the business and they are trying to be successful, right. Then sustainable recovery. So, you go through some internal sources, improving operational efficiency, so that you are able to recover and recapture your market. So, these are the different stages which basically calls for turnaround. You find that okay, these are the things and this could be related to what you call that yes, this calls for a turnaround. Moving further, if you look at this, what need to be done at different stages of the turnaround. So, these are the sequence of events in turnaround at different stages, at the preparatory stage and then at the short term goals, because you need to go for some fixing at the short term. So, that the loss is arrested, and then you see that in the long term what could be your approach, right. So, at the preparatory stage, in the beginning stage, what you need to do, these are the activities which is very important, like restructuring. If your structure is not doing well, so you go for redesigning your structure, bring about a change, close down departments, close down units. Okay. Look at how people's roles and responsibilities are distributed, you try to bring about a change. Move from one particular type of structure to a different kind of structure, right. For example, if you have a functional structure and if it is not doing well, then you could move to a more organic structure or organic form of a structure, right. Then you start working in instead of individually, you start working on team. Then you also try to bring about a change in the culture of the organization and also go for some kind of financial restructuring. Okay. See that what is your financial arrangement and in what way you can prioritize your finances and what activities you need to focus more on in terms of finances. So, to start with this stage, you move to look at some short term gains. This is what we know as short term fix. So, you try to reduce the cost, make sure that unnecessary expenditures are reduced. You try to ascertain that you engage in all such activities which is going to reduce the cost of the operations. You redeploy those assets where it is required. So, go for some kind of restructuring. You see in the value chain what is happening, what are the activities which you consider is not providing any kind of value, whether we can stop it. So, you go for rebuilding your value chain. When you look at each of the activities in the chain, in the value chain, and see that what kind of value is coming out from each of these activities, right. And see that if a particular point of the chain you find that it is a non adding value, it is not adding any kind of value, then you can reduce it. And then you see that what kind of product and market strategy you are going to adopt, because your product market strategy is going to decide whether you are going to succeed in future or not. And then you move to the next stage, that is the growth stage, and at this stage you are going to reposition the strategy. ensure that your revenue profit increases, okay, and you are able to capture new markets or channelize your strategy in a sense that you are see that how you can capture new markets, right. So, these are the sequences that could be taken up at different stages, right, so that you are able to turn it around. Moving further, when you are talking about how to go about managing turnaround and what kind of strategies that we talked about, like operational strategies or strategic orientation that is required to bring about operational efficiency, and also look at the product market. So, one thing that could be done is that you need to have a team internally who is going to look after the turnaround process, who is going to see that how this turnaround is going to happen, and you also need some specialist from outside who are turnaround specialists. So, you need to consult with those who have successfully turned around some companies. Okay. Sometimes what actually happens that if the loss making companies, you remove the top management, right, and you go for mergers with a healthy organization. So, that unit is merged with another organization which is making profit, but this strategy sometimes does not work, right. So, what you need to see that you look at external expert, ask them to work with the internal team and see that what needs to be done in order to turn around by following the sequences that we have talked about. Moving further, look at the situation, the responses that is required. This is a turnaround situation and this is a turnaround response. Now, look at it, because your basic objective is to recover a loss making company to make it a profit making company. So, this kind of bigger change is very important, and for that you need to ensure that what kind of situation you are in, right, and how severe that particular situation is. So, what you do, you look at the cause, both the external and internal factors we have already talked about, right. What are the internal external factors which calls for a turnaround, and whether these are leading to declining sales or margins, or whether you are going to be bankrupt. So, declining sales and margin one thing that could be arrested if it is not a serious problem, but if it improves further, it goes up, it becomes very high, then there could be a situation where a company could be bankrupt, right. So, you need to ensure that these factors are able to identify what is how severe the situation is, right, whether sales or margin is declining and it is possible to arrest them or not, or it has become so severe that it has created a situation of bankruptcy, right. So, once you are able to identify the cause and the extent to which the situation is there, you move further and see what kind of strategies you adopt. So, this is what we know as retrenchment phase. At this stage, you take two activities in your hand, that is try to reduce the cost as much as possible, look at your activities, identify value added activities, prioritize them, go for it, okay. Refocus your finances, go for restructuring our finances, see in what way you can reduce the cost of the operations, and that would bring operational efficiency and also reduce your assets, right, non-performing assets. So, you need to ensure that you are able to reduce your non-performing assets and also see that how you are going to restructure in order to ensure that the cost of the activities are reduced. Okay. So, this comes through operational efficiency, right. So, this would bring some stability to the business, right, and then once you are able to stabilize it, then move further, and this is what we call the recovery phase. In the recovery phase, what actually happens is that to start with, you gradually improve, efficiency is maintained, right, through cost effectiveness, and then you are also able to see that you are able to reconfigure your business what needs to be done, okay, and that is where you are able to recover your business, right. So, you need to identify your situations which by identifying the cause, the extent to which it has damaged your business, and then intermediate stage you need to look at these stages and see that what needs to be done in order to recover the business. Moving further, what we are going to talk about is what are the ingredients. Basically, a lot of work has been done by Khandwala, and he suggested certain activities which is required for turnaround management. It includes You need to have a change agent with a strong sense of mission, which is very much required. Then credibility building through some outstanding performance, mobilization of the rank and file by getting them involved in the organization's goals and activities. All this is a part of what they call operational efficiency, quick payoff projects for some immediate relief, reprieve from serious external pressures, especially those relating to relations, finances, key inputs, stakeholders, so that they are not going to influence you much, because the moment the say profit starts declining, you know that the union starts creating problem, there could be financial restructuring, right, stakeholders starts creating problem, right. So, these kind of pressures are not going to be there. Then you also need to mobilize external resources, right. So, you look at funds who can, even venture capitalists who can fund your business and see what are the opportunities which is available and what kind of business you can operate better, right. Then moving further, he said that you need to strengthen the mechanism to influence the environment, like marketing and public relations. That is very, very important, because that is going to help you to arrest the kind of reputation of image that you have developed for the organization. And you also try to bring about selective change in the product mix, considering high payoff products. So, you can lay off those products which are not doing well, right, and focus more on those products which are paying better. Then you strengthen the management function in the systems, especially the financial control system, because finances are very, very important. So, you go for some kind of restructuring of the finances. You also need to motivate managers through participation, autonomy and challenging. For example, you know that when Lehman Brothers was not doing well, and most the one problem that management felt, that most of the managers become very, very demotivating. Okay. After it merged with Nomura, then things started becoming better, right. So, you have to ensure that you are able to motivate managers through different activities, then better coordination through regular review meetings, face to face interactions, so that people know what is the status, how well the company has progressed. And then financial controls, which is very, very important, fixing responsibilities, creating profit and cost centers. So, you know that which activities is related to cost, which activities relate to profit. So, that you can go for asset reduction as well as cost reduction both. So, this is the phasing of work stream in the turnaround process. The first phase, you go for diagnosis, whether it is a crisis situation, what kind of development plan you can have for the business, selecting a team for the turnaround. Then this is the emergency phase. You start implementing the business plan. You also need to manage your stakeholders and consider it as a project where you are going to manage the project on the turnaround. And this at this stage, from the emergency phase, you will move to the strategic phase, you go for financial restructuring. And gradually you move to see that the growth or the renewal phase is there, because at this phase basically you are going to see that some results starts coming. It means that decline in the profit is arrested and the company starts making profit again. So, look at the changes at the different stages of the turnaround that happens. The first stage, we are going to the management change stage, okay, where the board of directors, the senior managers decide that yes, we need to go for some kind of transition. So, the turnaround agent, internal and external both, internal team as well as external consultant is selected, and they are empowered to take decisions related to the organization. This is the first stage. Second stage, where you are evaluate the extent of damage that has happened, what, right, whether this really a crisis situation, emergency situation, or only the profits are declining, or you are going to be bankrupt. So, depending upon that, you are going to decide what kind of turnaround strategy you are going to have. So, you are going to decide whether your turnaround is going to be strategic or operational. So, if it is not very severe, then you go for improving operational efficiency. If it is very serious, then you go for strategic, right, and then you create an action plan. Then the emergency stage, where you find that yes, it is the really situation of crisis, the company is on the brink of failing and it must do whatever is required to survive, right. Then the fourth stage, that is stabilization stage. At this stage, you look at the immediate problems and see that how it is resolved, okay. And you have plans in place to improve your operating as well as strategic performance. Results are evaluated for account acceptability, whether it is acceptable or not, and if results are not efficient, you go for liquidation, okay. You go for either sales or mergers. because if you are not able to make profit, then you explore other options, whether you are going to sell this company or whether this company is to be merged with other units or not, because that could be a viable options, because if it is taken over by a profit making company, then they will try to see that what needs to be done with this loss making company to turn it around, right. And then when you return to the normal growth stage, it means you start making profit again, then you continue with your normal corporate operations, right. So, this is the framework that is suggested depending upon the stage and strategies, right. So, the arresting sickness, that is the first stage, because the immediate problem is to see that the loss or the decline is arrested, right. So, these are the activities we have already talked about. You go for cost cutting, make sure that external pressures are not there, you are able to build credibility, especially the turnaround agent, right. There is a quick payoff, there is asset reduction, inventory reduction. So, you try to do all kind of things to arrest the loss. The second stage, where you go for reorientation, you define the business, you try to bring about a change in the corporate identity or the image, so that your branding is different. So, you also go for rationalizing the product mix, which offer only those projects which are making profit, right. Then you can shift from product orientation to market orientation. In some cases, it happens where the companies are not able to make profit being a manufacturing company, then they turn into a marketing companies, right. Then you also tie up with companies for marketing, focus on quality and customer, that is very, very important. You go for debt capital restructuring, organizational restructuring, change in the management kind also. So, you bring about some restructuring in the organization, in the roles and responsibilities of the people. You also train people to take up new responsibilities, give information to everyone, and also go for public relationship and licensing, because this is what is going to help you to ensure that you are able to work effectively. Then third stage, that is where you go for institutionalization and culture building. This is very, very important. You develop a culture through seminars, focus programs, right. You at this stage, you are able to develop a new structure, system and process, including communication and coordination mechanism. And finally, you have a growth stage and diversification, where you have been able to successfully come out with the new products, you have entered into new markets, right. You have gone for diversification, it could be related or unrelated fields. You have tried to try to focus on R&D, so that technologically you become more strong, and you also think about mergers and acquisitions. So, if you look at this turnaround stage and strategy, you need to see that what kind of activities you need to see at different stages of turnaround, so that your turnaround is going to be successful and you are able to change yourself or convert or transform yourself from a loss making company to a profit making company. Thank you very much.